What's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. Obviously today we are going to be talking about a recap of my first trimester. This is a video that I have been anticipating for a few weeks now, and I have not been, I feel like, as motivated going into the second trimester as I was at the end of the first trimester. Definitely experiencing some changes, which I did not necessarily see coming because this is my first pregnancy. So once I get into my third trimester, I will be doing a recap of the second trimester as well. But just to give you guys some history, I've had problems with my ovaries since I was 17 years old that I know of. And just without getting into too much detail, I am 29 years old, and I never thought that being a mom was going to be a part of my future. It was definitely a surprise and what they call a rainbow baby. And so it's been an experience, one that I wasn't expecting to experience in this time of my life. It's definitely not the most ideal time in my life, but I think that from my personal experience, the best things in my life have always been unexpected. That being said, I wrote down some notes so I wouldn't forget anything. So I found out when Isaac's sober, he doesn't drink, and I enjoy having drinks and stuff. And so for a while, and Isaac and I made a deal, and he would stop drinking the yerba mates that he normally drinks because they have a lot of sugar in them, and I would stop drinking alcohol. And I forget, we had some type of deal, winner get something, I don't remember, but we wound up I wasn't drinking and he didn't drink his yerba mates for over a month. And it was during that time that I got pregnant, and we were going to Mindy's, and I was just feeling really stressed out. And so it was that day I was like, I give up, I need a drink. And so Mindy made me a drink, and Isaac was like, yay, I can drink herbs again. And so she made me a drink, and even though I wanted it, when I was drinking it, it just wasn't settling right in my stomach. It just didn't, it almost felt like I was rejecting it, which, looking back now, that's what it felt like, is my body just was not taking to it. And I didn't even finish the one drink, and it just didn't, I thought maybe I was sick or something. I just wasn't feeling okay. And that was the first and only time I drank since being pregnant. So we stayed at Mindy's that day, and the next morning I woke up, and it was probably around, 9 or 10 after we had had coffee. Isaac was in the shower, and I was in the kitchen doing something, and all of a sudden I got this overwhelming feeling of nausea. And I just was standing there, and I ran to the bathroom. And I was so sure I was gonna throw up. And I knew I wasn't hungover or anything because I didn't even have one full drink. And Isaac was like, what's going on? And I was like, I feel like I'm gonna throw up. And he was like, oh, are you pregnant? And in my head, I'm like, no, there's no way I could be pregnant. And I just kept feeling nauseous. I didn't really pay attention to whether or not I was late. My menstrual cycle has always been very sporadic. I've had the average menstrual cycle for a woman is 28 days, and mine were usually on average about 35 days, but sometimes that could go into 40 days. I've even had over 60-day cycles. So it never really concerned me too much if I was late. But then I started thinking back and I had realized that I was a little late, but it still didn't really freak me out. I just thought maybe I was sick because I, didn't think that this was possible. And just to put my mind at ease, something I've done in the past, I guess, not necessarily put my mind at ease, but I have taken many pregnancy tests. In past relationships, there was a time when I was actively trying to conceive, and it just never happened for years. And so I've taken so many pregnancy tests, and so I was just thinking that if I took it and it was negative, I could just know that, I'm probably just sick or something. It was more of a mental thing than it was that I wasn't thinking that I was actually pregnant. So, but I had Mindy buy me a cheap pregnancy test because I didn't want to unnecessarily freak Isaac out, and I took it, and there was 2 pink lines, something I had never seen before and I was not expecting. And I kind of broke down, and it was a feeling that I can't really explain. It was overwhelming with all kinds of emotions, and Mindy was actually the first person that knew, and then Isaac was the second person that knew. But when I told my closest friends and my mom and my sister, none of them believed me at first. They thought I was joking, and yeah, wasn't joking. But that being said, I found out at about 5 weeks, and I had my first ultrasound at 9.5 weeks. I went to Planned Parenthood, and I did the urine pregnancy test and a vaginal ultrasound, and I was 9 weeks and 4 days. And so I haven't gone back to the doctor yet. I do have a doctor's appointment scheduled, but that won't be till later in the month. So for now, that's all the information I have from the doctor itself. And so that is how I found out that I was pregnant, and when I found out that I was pregnant. So the first trimester, I will say I was working out. Before I found out, I was working out 5 or 6 days a week rigorously, and I was feeling really good. I was eating really well, and then I just started to get very extremely exhausted every single day. I was so tired. The nausea didn't start until I guess into week 5, but that first month before, I was just exhausted all the time. And so I didn't really think too much of it. I just thought, I was just feeling lethargic, and I wasn't sure why. I just knew I was tired. And then once I found out, I knew that was why, and the exhaustion continued throughout the rest of the first trimester. The nausea continued and only got worse throughout the first trimester. I didn't actually throw up. I was just constantly feeling like I was going to. So I'm grateful that I wasn't hugging the toilet all the time, but I did feel sick all the time. So that was basically like the first major signs, was being exhausted and being super nauseous. I would say third major sign that I didn't necessarily know was a sign until I did more research in pregnancy was that I was starting to break out, and I was having acne like I did in high school. And I was so frustrated because in high school I did have acne, and I did like the whole proactive thing, and that actually helped and cleared it up, and I hadn't really had acne since. And so to be breaking out like I was, it was really stressing me out, and I didn't understand why I was breaking out so bad. And it was because there's hormones raging through my body. And so the acne was bad throughout the first entire trimester, and even now it's starting to finally, like, I'm well into my second trimester. I'm almost 15 weeks. Tomorrow I'll be 15 weeks. And the acne is finally starting to go away, and I'm finally starting to get a little bit energy back, but that was very it was pretty bad throughout the first trimester for me personally, and my own opinion saying that it was bad. It probably wasn't as bad as it could have been, thankfully, but it was something that made me feel uncomfortable. And then the first trimester, I did to also notice that my hair was a lot more dry and frail than it has ever been. It's normally pretty it's pretty thick and healthy, and I feel like right now it's just not feeling that great. I feel like now going into the second trimester, it's getting a little bit better, but throughout the first trimester, I feel like it was just really hoarse and I hated it pretty much every single day. And then obviously the two other like major signs of pregnancy that I did experience were tender breasts and frequent urination. I literally, if I drink as much water as I'm supposed to drink, I will be in and out of the restroom at least every 5 to 10 minutes, and I'm not exaggerating. Even if it's just a very minimal amount of liquid, of urine coming out, I still feel like I really have to pee. And so those were two other signs that I experienced and continue to experience. I pee constantly. And my friends would always joke before, like, that I had the world's smallest bladder. And so this is even worse than before. And it can be frustrating sometimes when you're trying to work out or you're in the middle of doing something, especially trying to build, and you're just constantly running to the bathroom and you're just spending so much time in there. And then I never get a full night's sleep because I'm in the bathroom half the night. And so I haven't had a night where I slept all the way through or gotten up less than like 5 times. I am up a lot throughout the night. So I am a very emotional person, and I know that they say like pregnant women are extremely emotional, and so I always thought that if I ever did get pregnant, and I always joke with my friends and stuff, we talk about how I would probably be kind of crazy and up and down because I am so emotional. And during the first trimester, I was definitely not as emotional as I thought I was going to be. Things are changing going into the second trimester, or during the first few months, I was definitely pretty normal, aside from just all the symptoms I've already mentioned. Other than that, as far as me emotionally, I feel like I was not different at all. I think I was pretty normal, not as emotional as I thought I was going to be. I definitely gained a little bit of weight, and that was something too that like I didn't understand. I was working out a lot and I was still gaining weight, and so that was something that I noticed too. It wasn't anything crazy, but that was also still there. And then toward the last few weeks of the first trimester, I did experience cramping and pain in my lower abdomen, but it turns out that that's normal, and that is just because you have a baby inside of you and it's growing, and so you are growing and your body's not used to those parts of your body being bigger, and so my body is just stretching and making room for the baby, and that's why that's happening. But those are the first signs and all of the symptoms that I experienced during the first trimester of this pregnancy. And I did learn a lot, and I'm still learning. So let's go over some things that I learned being this being my first pregnancy. I've learned that, let's see, just off the top of my head, I learned that you cannot eat deli meat unless you heat it up first, because there is bacteria that grows on deli meat when it's refrigerated that can be harmful to the baby. I kind of knew about the whole litter thing before I was pregnant, just because my mom and my sister are nurses, but my sister did call me as soon as she found out and was like, look, can't clean the litter box anymore. That's a big no-no, and explained why. And so Isaac's been on cat box duty since we found out, and we also just recently got a self-cleaning litter box, which has been really nice. The cats are still getting used to it. BB's been a little bit afraid of it, but they both use it and it works great. And so Isaac hasn't had to clean the litter boxes often because I was feeling guilty for asking him to clean it every single day on top of his already full workload. He never complains about it or anything, but I know that it's not a fun chore to do, but I don't mind it because I love the cats. And so to ask somebody who doesn't love them as much as I do, I know that it's probably not anyone's favorite thing to do. It's definitely not enjoyable. But that has been taken care of, so definitely have not been cleaning the litter box. Let's see. They also say that you're not supposed to take ibuprofen when you're pregnant, so that was something that I actually called my mom to ask her about before I took anything, because I do get restless legs at night and sometimes it's unbearable and I have to take some pain relieving medicine in order for me to even sleep at all. If I don't, I will not sleep, and it's extremely painful for me. So Tylenol is the only thing that you can take unless told otherwise by a doctor, but they don't encourage you to take that either. So I don't take that unless I absolutely have to, and I've only had to take Tylenol twice during this pregnancy, and that we are at 15 weeks. So hopefully I can keep that up and not have to take Tylenol too often. Let's see, what else have I learned? There are some fish that you can't eat. I don't know too much about what types of fish to avoid and what types of fish not to avoid, so I just avoid fish altogether. I'm not a seafood person, so it's not hard for me to not eat fish, and so there's that too. I have cut down. I knew before I was pregnant that you're obviously not supposed to drink a ton of caffeine when you're pregnant, so I cut down on my caffeine, and I only have 1 cup of coffee in the morning instead of my normal 2 cups of coffee. And for those days that I really just feel like I want some coffee, I do have decaf. I've only drank like a cup of decaf so far. I'm not a huge fan of decaf coffee itself, but when you're craving it, it gets the job done. I also learned about midwives and that route of childbirth, and I myself am not opposed to it, but for my first pregnancy, I just would feel better knowing that I was in the hospital in case something went wrong and did happen, and I wasn't 5 minutes away. I was there, the doctors are there, and I don't have anything to worry about as far as getting to the hospital in time. Women can bleed out in minutes in childbirth, and I just want to take every precaution that I can to make sure everything is safe. And I said from day one I was not going to try and breastfeed. That was just, it's not something that I want to endure. And for people who have not had kids or have never breastfed, from everyone that I've talked to who has had kids and has tried to breastfeed or did breastfeed, it's different with everyone. Not all babies take to it. It can be really challenging and very, very stressful. And I am going to attempt to breastfeed for at least 2 months when the baby's born, but if the baby doesn't take to it, the baby doesn't take to it, and I'm not going to try to force it. So I'm still kind of on the fence about it, just because I don't know exactly what's going to happen, and everything changes. And I also say now that I don't want to have more than one kid, and for me, this baby is a miracle, and I don't know that it will be even possible for me to have more children, but if I am, I thought about getting my tubes tied, because I am full-heartedly all in as of right now that I do not want to have more than one baby. I don't ever want to put myself through pregnancy again. It has not been fun for me. But like I said, things change, and so I do want to give myself the option of having more kids later on, if that's something that does change as well. So I will be on birth control or whatever the doctor recommends, if that's an option for me. And maybe down the line, or whenever I decide that it's time to have another baby, or it's time to I know for a fact I don't want another one. I just want to give myself the option for a little while to sit on it and really be sure, after I do have at least one child, to decide if I want to have another one. I come from a family of 8, so a lot of people have said that they have an only child, and their child wishes that they came from a big family. And while I'm sure, that can be the case in some cases, I actually am friends with a lot of only childs, and not one of them is unhappy with their family situation and growing up as an only child. I think it has a lot to do with the child as a person, as who they are, which we can never determine. So we also have to think about them, but we also have to think about ourselves as well. Is it practical for me to have another baby? Is it safe? I want to be able to make sure that I am thinking of all of my options. So I think I've touched on everything that I experienced during this first trimester of pregnancy, and I did write down everything, and I've gone over all of my notes. So I'm curious to see what you guys have to say, or maybe what did you experience that I didn't, or just like how was your first trimester different than my first trimester, maybe as your first pregnancy, or how was your first one different from your second? I would be really curious to hear your stories, obviously from women, and even from the dads, if there's any watching, who I don't necessarily know that there will be, but I'd be curious to hear your point of view of things, especially because you're the one having to deal with the pregnant woman who may or may not be a little emotional during this time. But I just wanted to be as transparent with you guys as possible, and for those of you who are interested and want to come along for the journey every step of the way, I wanted to do this video for you guys. This isn't something I necessarily think that everyone who is subscribed to my channel is gonna watch, because my channel's mainly about building my bus and traveling, and now things are changing, and I still do I'm going to finish my bus, and I still want to do some traveling. Isaac and I want to travel together. We obviously have some things to finish before that happens, but I am looking forward to see how our lives change, and there is no one that I would rather be doing this with than him. He has been an amazing partner, and he's been so supportive and understanding, and I'm so grateful to have him in my life, and I know that he's going to be an amazing dad, and he's already shown me how amazing he is, and he continues to do so every day. And so I am extremely grateful that he is the person that I get to experience all these major life changes with. And so all of that being said, thank you guys so much for watching and coming along with us throughout this process. If you guys have any questions, please comment down below, and I will try my best to get to every question that you guys have and get those answered for you. And I just appreciate all of you as well for being there and for supporting us. We appreciate you guys and we love you guys so much. And as always, I will see you guys on the next video. And on Monday, I will be going live at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And so I will see you guys there as well every single Monday. And I look forward to hanging out with you guys. And so until then, I'll see you later.